There's never a dull moment when it comes to Minnesota sports. Whether it's positive or negative.
The Yankees have swept the Twins.
Minnesota Sports Chat has you covered. Talking nothing but Minnesota sports all year long. It's time now for the soon-to-be award-winning, if only in his own mind, Minnesota Sports Chat with your host, Ross Brendel.
That would be me. This is edition number 231 of the soon-to-be award-winning Minnesota Sports Chat. Award-winning, if only in my own mind, presented by Beans Coffee Company. It is the Gophers review and preview show. Gophers coming off of a 27-24 loss at the Big House to the University of Michigan, a controversial loss at that. And with that, that means we bring in from Gophers Guru and gophersguru.com and the easy winner of the third or fourth annual Minnesota Sports Chat Open by, I believe, roughly 15 strokes. It was a bad day at the office for this guy, Mr. Daniel House. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, I'm doing well. USC, Minnesota this week. Trojans coming to town for a Big Ten game. I mean, if you're a college football fan, it doesn't get any better than that.
You know, and before we get to USC, let's start with the University of Michigan and the University of Minnesota. We start with our friend Gus Johnson on Fox, and we'll just, you know what, I will chronologically play in order to a degree how this game played out, and we will react to it afterward. So take it away, Gus Johnson.
And it's caught. Daniel Jackson tries to turn it up and get to the 20. He loses it. Michigan says they have the football. Do they? Zeke Berry came out with it, and it looks like we've got a turnover.
Series, 4 straight drives now. Minnesota
has blocked, loose, picked up. Michigan has it down at the 10. Boven with the recovery. Osmer in the end zone. Whoa, what a catch! Daniel Jackson, no.
The flag came out, it looked like, for potential interference right there from Zeke Berry.
Oh my goodness, that's a touchdown to me.
And if you thought that was a Gus-gasm, just wait for this one.
Nice bounce. Scrambled around. Minnesota's got it. The Gophers have it.
Offside. Kicking team number 49. 5-yard penalty from the previous spot. Re-kick.
Watch top of your screen. Kesich is going to take off, and does he cross? Oh, man, just barely.
So a lot to unpack there from our guy, Gus Johnson, and I'm 99% positive that's Trent Klatt, correct? That's who his partner is that
Joel
day?
Klatt.
Joel Klatt. Close enough. Like 50% of his name. I got the last name right. Okay, so here's the funny part. I'll let listeners in on a conversation that Daniel and I had. And Daniel, to a degree, I'm not going to put words in your mouth, basically said, kind of feels like a game the Gophers turn the ball over a few times, give Michigan a few short fields, and that could really haunt. Daniel House, I know it's all part of the game, and I hesitate to even say this. If you take away the Daniel Jackson fumble that gave Michigan the ball inside the 20, or the blocked punt inside the 20, Minnesota is probably holding the Little Brown Jug today.
Well,
break it down. Break it down, buddy.
You look at the fumble, trying to get a couple of extra yards there, and then you give Michigan a short field. I think on the block punt, the thing that people aren't talking enough about is like there was there was getting down late in the play clock there, and in hindsight, Minnesota should have just took the delay a game penalty there, because there was some confusion. Things weren't going right pre-snap, and then they snapped the ball, and then it got blocked, and then you got a big problem. When you do that type of stuff, when you turn the ball over deep in your own end, you get a punt block, you miss a field goal, you had an interception. I think, it was like 8 TFLs and 4 sacks in the first half, and a lot of that was just because they were backed up. I mean, they had early down penalties that were giving them a lot of trouble putting them in less favorable positions, allowing Michigan's pass rush to take over, which I felt was one of the things that they couldn't do. And then in the second half, it was just complimentary football taking place, all three phases contributing. You get a good punt return. You make the big play with Daniel Jackson. I wrote about it on the website. The play design was actually something that they built off of from the Nevada game conceptually. So that was pretty cool. But the game was strange. I mean, that was a weird football game in many respects.
So the Gophers fall down 21-3. They get 3 right before the half after completing a Hail Mary down to the 2-yard line. Very quickly, Daniel, is there anything they could have done besides kicking 3 there? I give them like an 11 out of 10 for running the old fire drill and getting everybody off the field and getting the kick team on to get 3 before half. Any argument to be made that you could maybe spike that football, run a play, try and get into the end zone without spiking the football, run a play and try and get into the end zone? Or do you think they did exactly what they should have done in that moment?
You don't have enough time there to spike the football. I think in hindsight, you're looking at having a timeout available there would have been ideal. So then you could have pounded the timeout. And then, if you wanted to take a shot at the end zone, you could have. But that's absolutely the right play. Good execution. I mean, Minnesota practices that all the time when you're there. On the open practice sessions that we get, that the bonanza kick is something that they're just constantly putting in their practice plan for an event that it happens, and it doesn't happen very often. But to be able to get 3 points, I felt like that sort of gave them a little bit of flow, a little bit of inspiration going into halftime, because it was just nothing was going right there. And then all of a sudden, you get the Hail Mary, you get down to the 2, and then, able to execute in that situation, which credit to them for doing that.
This is not how the Gophers are built, but it continues to show in games, and it did again against the University of Michigan this past Saturday. It feels like this offense just works better when they let Brosmer play up-tempo, and when the team is going up-tempo and you're kind of going more of a no-huddle style, or at least a call-it-at-the-line style. Is that something we may see here in the back half of the season, just to maybe get the offense to be a bit more competitive, or maybe just keep them in rhythm longer, or get them in rhythm quicker? The schedule doesn't lighten up, Daniel. So they're going to, if they want to win some games here in conference play and not have this thing really spiral out of control, they're probably going to need to examine doing a few things better or different. But on the better part, Daniel, now I'm talking all over, I like to do that. They also have to clean some things up too. Entirely too many penalties on the offensive side of the ball, and just really a poor lack of protection on the offensive side of the ball too.
Well, it's just details things. And you mentioned the tempo. I thought that the blend of it was good. There's a fine line between being a tempo team that's just like absolutely insanely fast, and then there's a tempo team that like varies it. They're setting the pace really well. Being able to, after a big play, come up, get to the line of scrimmage, set the play, and get going. It helps a lot with pre-snap. Defenses are so exotic, especially Wink Martindale is what they want to do. You get coverage disguise, you give them time to communicate an adjustment, a check, and, getting the perfect look against formation that you have or a tendency that you show. The tempo prevents that from happening. You're playing a defense in USC this week that will be similar in some respects to what they do pre-snap and how they handle coverages guys and things like that. So there are times, I think it's kind of dependent on picking your spots with tempo, like where you are in the field, what you're looking to accomplish. And it's a credit to Max Brosmer. I mean, I don't think people realize how hard that is to do, to orchestrate tempo. You have to have someone that's smart and sharp and can handle the pressure in the moment to be able to run tempo. So I think that's a credit to Brosmer for them being able to do that more this year and a lot of different things in their offense.
Yeah, Max goes 27 for 40, throws for 258 yards, made a lot of big passes in the second half, gets a touchdown, gets an interception, however. But by and large, I think maybe his best game as a Gopher. Daniel, would you agree or disagree with that?
I thought the second half was really good, and I thought it was a product of, protecting better, being in situations where they were able to, not have the pre-snap penalties that they had in the first half, which I thought was one of the big storylines. You just can't get 1st and 20. You can't get in, 1st and 15 and be backed up right away. Thought the screen game was really useful. They had that really well-timed 1st and 20 screen on one of those drives to get back in, a reasonable down a distance situation. Though the screen package was something that I thought was useful too. A lot of people are talking about the tempo, but how about the screens? I mean, they did a nice job of executing a few of those, and I thought that was great as well. And Brosmer, yeah, he executed well with the concepts that they were looking to run.
Follow me on this. A couple of thoughts on the offsides on the onside kick. Whether he was offsides or not, still thought it was great execution. Fun to see him recover the ball, even though it didn't count. He wasn't egregiously offsides. Okay, so whether he was offsides or not, Daniel, here's my point. I think you can make a case to me if you had a look down the 40-yard line that he was offsides. You can make that case to me. But I would say this, and I've said this for a while now for pretty much all of sports, and this kind of tipped me over the edge. In all of sports that use replay, Daniel, we either need to say we're no longer replaying anything or we're going to replay everything. Because case in point in college football, how can offsides on a kick not be reviewable, but yet we can go back and we can review whether a punt returner gave an invalid fair catch signal or not. Or we can review whether a defender got off the field in time. Oh, he still had a foot on the field. That's 12 men on the field. That's a penalty. But we can't review offsides on an onside kick in a play that did directly, whether fairly or unfairly, determine the outcome of the game. That pushed me over the edge. I think it's ridiculous. There's no reason why you shouldn't be able to review that play.
Well, and you can review whether the player engaged in a block early. You can review whether the ball touched the player early within the 10 yards. There are things that you can review, but offsides is not reviewable. So I think, honestly, like if they would have reviewed that, they might have found, they might have ended up ruling that it went off Brockington's shin, and then it could have been, engaged early. Like there are a couple different things, dominoes there that could have hit. But yes, reviewable plays like that. I mean, that's a bang subjective call. And I think you got to be pretty obvious if you're going to throw that. It's got to be pretty obvious if you're going to throw that flag. Now the Big Ten is going to change the way that they position
of course
the refs. But hey, I think a lot of people are really talking about that, but in the grand scheme of it, it's like, there are a lot of plays over the course of games that contribute to not being able to win. I always remember Norv Turner. He always used to say 3 to 4 plays always end up impacting the outcome of the game. Well, I'll never forget him talking about that.
The easy way, Daniel, not to have to recover that onside kick and utilize that to try and win the game. Don't fall down 21-0, right? So
and that's the thing.
That goes back to the 3 to 4 plays.
They got down in a hole fast, and on the road in the Big Ten against a team like Michigan, that's a tough task. I mean, you're asking a lot, and when you're backed up, and then you're turning the ball over and doing those things, that's a recipe for putting yourself in not a good spot when the margin is already thin in the Big Ten in these games.
So I'll be honest, I don't know Michigan's schedule in front of me. I don't have it. I don't know it off the top of my head. I know they have Ohio State. House, if they play offense like that the back half of the season, they're going to lose a couple of football games. Like that's going to have to get better. That's a rough offense. I know they play great defense, but you're going to have to eventually pass for 150, 200 yards to win college football games. You're not going to be able to win like that every week. I know they beat USC, but eventually teams will shut that down and you'll have to have the threat of a passing game.
Look at their next 5 games. Washington, efficient defense with Steve Belichick. They've done a good job on the defensive side of the ball. Illinois, at Illinois. Michigan State with Joe Rossi will have a plan. They play the run really well. They'll be able to come up with a plan to slow down that rushing attack. Then they got Oregon at home, and then at Indiana. I mean, you look at these next, 5 games for Michigan. This is a position where they're going to face some really good opponents.
That's Windiana to you, buddy.
Windiana, Signetti, baby.
Windiana. Hashtag Indiana back, baby. That's your
man, they did a good
that's your
job
guy.
building their team.
So
I know.
I've been to a game out there, Daniel, and I told you this. It's a beautiful little stadium. I'm happy for them. It's a great campus. It's in a beautiful area. I'm happy for them. And looking at their schedule, Daniel, I think Indiana could easily win 9 games. It could be
real.
Indiana football winning 9 games. It could happen. It could happen that you wind your way to coffeebybeans.com. Thanks to Beans Coffee Company for supporting Minnesota Sports Chat. You can thank them by checking out the aforementioned coffeebybeans.com. When you visit there, you've heard me say it now for months. I know you're going to find something that you want to try. I know once you try it, you'll end up loving it and wanting more of it. Roast in all sorts of varieties, light, medium, dark, even caffeine-free coffee for you people who want that taste of coffee, but not that added jolt. You're going to find something delightful and tasty for your personal palate at coffeebybeans.com. Best part, use the promo code SportsChat. That's SportsChat at coffeebybeans.com. You'll save a little bit of cash when you check out. Beans Coffee Company. They ship for free on all orders of $35 or more. That website again, coffeebybeans.com. Promo code SportsChat. Daniel, USC up next, 6:30 kickoff from Huntington Bank Stadium. USC 3-1. Their only loss to Michigan. They're coming off of a 38-21 victory over Wisconsin. Per the ESPN matchup predictor, do you want to take a guess, Daniel? What do you think? I know this is becoming your new favorite game. Neither you nor I really believe in this thing, but it is fun to talk about. Do you want to guess what the ESPN matchup predictor says about this game?
68% USC.
You're not far off. They go with a 71.4% chance that USC wins the game, a 28.6% chance that Minnesota wins the game. That closely mirrors Minnesota and Michigan. And in college football, Daniel, 28.6 doesn't seem like a huge chance, but that's still a pretty good chunk. So if you're going to tell me the Gophers have roughly a 30% chance at beating USC for whatever that's worth, I'll take that. I'd like it to be more. I'd like to think the boys can get in the win column on Saturday night. Maybe they will. What can you tell us about Gophers and USC? And do you agree with that 71.4% chance per the ESPN matchup predictor?
Well, you look at USC skill players. I mean, you got a variety of different types of wide receivers. I mean, Kyron Hudson is dynamic. You got Zachariah Branch, who I think is going to be one of the players to watch in this game. How Lincoln Riley features him in the screen game, gets him out in space, testing Minnesota's tackling ability. Mekhi Lemon's he got hurt. We'll see if he's available to play. They bring in Deuce Robinson. He's a slot fade type of guy, 6'6", 220, more of that power slot type of option. Like their mix of skill sets, and Miller Moss is a great QB. I mean, gosh, he is someone that I think has made tangible improvement. He's been dealing with a lot of pressure. I think the edges of USC's offensive line are vulnerable. They can definitely get your eye discipline in the wrong spot with all the pulling and gap schemes that they have. So that's something to watch. Defensively, D'Anton Lynn taking over, multiple defense. Thought the first half of that Michigan game, their eye discipline wasn't very good. Their DBs and safeties struggled a little bit with the run game. Made the adjustment, get into the 5-man bear fronts, more aggressive with man coverage, made a huge difference. They were able to do a lot better in the second half of that game. So you need to be ready for a lot of different things with USC. They'll show pressure presentations, bluff out into it. They'll blitz, they'll simulate pressure, like a lot of different things to account for with USC. So talented team, and I'm excited just to see two high-level minds like Lincoln Riley and D'Anton Lynn coach it out.
Even in a loss, can the Gophers garner positive momentum to not only just put up a good fight against USC, but maybe carry some of those things over from the second half into the game and potentially beat USC? How do the Gophers get in the win column in the Big Ten? How do they get to 3-3 on the season? In your estimation, what do they need to do to be successful and get a win and get everybody feeling a lot better about the 2020-24 Golden Gopher football team?
First and second down efficiency is really important on offense. They're going to need to be able to not be behind the sticks because USC is very good when they get in those situations. They haven't been as sound in the standard down situations this year, so that's something to watch. First and second down, can Minnesota be efficient in that area and capitalize upon what the defense is giving them? I think that one of the things that I'll be watching is Minnesota, if they want to win this game, they've got to be in a position where they can get after the quarterback. I think some stunt action, some exotic stuff from a pressure standpoint could be useful. They're going to have to get home and make plays in the pass rush because they've got a lot of talent on the outside, different skill sets that they can use. So those are a few things that I'm going to be watching on both sides of the ball there. Execution just has to be there, Ross. It's like don't make a ton of mistakes early in the game. Don't dig yourself in a hole. Eliminate the pre-snap penalties and then see what happens, because the margin in these games, you can't have self-inflicted mistakes. You saw what happened in the Michigan game. You get down 21-0, and then your whole game plan is different. You're tearing up everything and trying to figure out how you can make it work. So I think that's what the key is, just eliminate. Can you play a full 60-minute football game against a quality opponent?
Before we get to a quick look around the Big Ten, one question that just popped into my mind. He went 1 for 2, made the quote-unquote chip shot, missed a 55-yarder. At what point can we question if we have a Dragan Kesich problem?
I think, if you start missing kicks in closer range, a lot of those misses are long range. You're out there trying to make a longer kick that's already difficult. So, if something starts happening where you're missing kicks that are closer, that's a repeated theme, then maybe it's something. But, I just think that field position's got to be better too. I mean, you're taking some of these kick returns out, and if you're losing out on potential yardage. I think I've always been a proponent of fair catching in certain situations and picking and choosing when you want to return it. I know you want to have the ball in Coy's hands, which it was reflected in the last game. I think on punts, that's definitely the case, but kickoffs and looking at, strategy, field position in the first half was a huge factor. And I think it's something to watch moving forward that Minnesota has to get better there.
Dragan on the year, 6 for 11. He is 2 for 3 from 20 to 29 yards, 1 for 1, 30 to 39, 40 to 49, 1 for 2, and per Daniel's point, 2 for 5 from long distance from 50 and beyond with a long of 53, but perfect on extra points, which are absolute musts. Knock on wood. Hopefully I didn't put some bad aura in the air for this upcoming weekend. I'll tell you this, Daniel, looking around the Big Ten schedule this weekend, I never thought I'd envision the day where you look around and say, well, Iowa and Ohio State's probably the best game, but the second best game on the schedule, Daniel, probably Rutgers at Nebraska.
Yeah, probably. I'm interested to see how Ethan McManus responds to his scheme like Nebraska's. That's, very exotic, going to do a lot of different things, tweaking fronts, tweaking coverages. That will be an interesting game just to see how Kirk schemes up Nebraska.
Anything around the country stand out to you? Have you had a chance to really look at the schedule this upcoming weekend?
In the Big Ten, I'm actually intrigued by that Michigan-Washington game, as we were talking about. And you look at the efficiency metrics and what Washington's doing defensively. I mean, they're keeping him in every game. Steve Belichick's doing a really good job out there. He's got everybody featured in really good roles right now. I think that's a game to watch from an upset standpoint. Michigan going out west, playing in prime time against Washington. I think that's going to be an interesting game in itself. That's probably my top game to watch outside of the one that you mentioned, Ohio State and Iowa. I want to see Iowa, coming off a bye week. Their offensive line, I think when you look at Big Ten offensive lines, they're executing extremely high level right now. Like they took their lumps with the younger offensive line for a couple of years, and now you're starting to see them really benefit from that investment because they're really executing that stretch zone. They got the counter off of it. How does Ohio State react to that? Is their defense going to be disciplined against the run? Can Iowa's defense do some things to potentially get a takeaway here, their special team score to keep themselves in the game? It'll be interesting to watch.
So one game I'm looking forward to at least keeping tabs on. I'm fairly busy all day on Saturday, so this will be one of the Saturdays throughout the year where, aside from the Gopher game that I will be at, I won't be able to watch much of the games or be heavily involved in watching any of them. But I do think that SMU in action taking on Louisville, that has a chance to be pretty entertaining because SMU's off to a pretty nice start this year, and Louisville coming off of a disappointing performance, at least in their eyes, taking on Notre Dame. I think that has the potential to be a little bit fun on Sunday. I guess we'll call it late morning. Saturday.
Two teams that did a good job of building their roster through the transfer portal, adding players in. Louisville in a loss last week to Notre Dame, and see bounce back. Jeff Brom coming off a loss. I think that they're going to have a scheme ready to go. I want to see their defense play with a little bit more consistency. That's a team to watch for moving forward.
So I'll close with this, and I'll hit the music. But Daniel House, true sign that we might be living in the end times, and we're just split seconds away from being evaporated, turned into dust. Both Army and Navy are 4-0, and they're both passing the football.
Let's go.
What world are we living in, Daniel House? Let's go. America's game looms just about 2.5 months from now.
Football evolution rocks. We're seeing it at all levels right now. Everybody getting back to the ground and pound, man. There's a shift, based on how teams are playing. And we could have a whole podcast on football evolution.
I just think seeing the stats where Army and Navy are at least throwing like 6 to 10 passes a game, sometimes more. It's what world are we living in? Speaking of what world are we living in, what will the people living in this world see when they go to gophersguru.com?
Well, you can check out insight on Minnesota's red zone play design, some of the ones that they've had success on, and how Daniel Jackson's touchdown was set up. And then also preview of USC coming down the pipeline here. You can know every tendency and matchup scheme that you should be watching for. So that's on the site, gophersguru.com.
Beautiful. That is Daniel House, MN, on the X Machine. I am at the Ross Brendel, dropping a pod or two each week in this feed on YouTube and wherever you're getting your podcast. Please make sure you rate and review kindly. And also like, comment, subscribe, share, do all that stuff on the YouTube machine. I'm back again real soon.
Thanks for listening to Minnesota Sports Chat, presented by Beans Coffee Company. Use the promo code SPORTSCHAT. That's one word, Sports Chat, to save at checkout. Follow Ross on X at the Ross Brendel. Like and subscribe to Minnesota Sports Chat wherever you get your podcasts. Rate and review kindly.